My name is April Cox, and today our Self-Publishing Made Simple author work group is welcoming a special guest speaker, Annie Mydla. She's going to talk with us today with a unique perspective from the judge's point of view on what they look for in a winning children's book. It's focused on children's book, indie authors. We are very happy to have you here today.
I'm very happy to be here. So yeah, I'm just here to talk to you a little bit today about what we look for on the technical side with the publishing. I mean, with the children's books, this is really important, like kind of how the book presents like as a physical object. And I'm also here to talk about the kinds of themes and the kinds of development we look for and really what separates like what I would consider a North Street book from the other books we have. I'm really looking for a specific, atmosphere, a specific way of communication, and I'll be able to tell you about that today. How I got hired by North Street is really indicative of the spirit of the prize. First of all, North Street is a real place. It's in Northampton, Massachusetts, and I lived on North Street, and Adam and Jendi, the owners of the company, were my next door neighbors. They interviewed me. We had good chemistry. So I started working for Winning Writers in 2015. Very small company, family run company, employs friends and neighbors. And we're all just really committed and into great self-published work. That's really what unites us. We have the values of Northampton, Massachusetts, which is really focused on amplifying voices in our culture that haven't been heard as much as they should. We love books that communicate super individual experiences. And we find that self-published work is really one of the best possible mediums for this. We have many categories in the North Street Book Prize. Well, first of all, we have book length work for adults. So that would be fiction, creative nonfiction. We have a lot of short story collections, poetry collections. We do graphic novel, we do art book, and we also, of course, do children's books. And right now we're really seeking to expand the entry pool for children's books. So we're especially welcoming children's self-published authors to the contest. Not middle grade fiction at the time, unfortunately, but children's picture book is really what we're looking for, along with the longer adult length fiction and creative nonfiction memoir. We run 4 contests every year. The North Street Book Prize has really emerged in recent years as kind of like the flagship contest. And we expand the categories every year, and we also raise the prize money every year. We feel that it's really important as the contest grows to use that as a way to expand the opportunities for writers. So as you can see, we have different categories: mainstream literary fiction, genre fiction, creative nonfiction and memoir, poetry, collections, children's picture book, graphic novel and memoir, and art book. Art book is the new category this year. We're really trying to expand our access for authors who have some kind of graphic component, including the children's picture book, because we've noticed that these categories are typically really underrepresented in writing contests, especially when it comes to self-published authors. Yeah, and it's also worth it to note that at the final bullet point there, we have the categories that are not currently eligible. So yeah, and then you can take a look at our prizes. The grand prize winner, which is across all categories, will win $5,000. This could come from any category. Last year, it was in the creative nonfiction. It was a wonderful memoir called Mine to Carry by Christine Mulvey. You can see her picture down there with the books behind her, but it could be from any genre. And we've had graphic novels win, we've had children's book, and the prize this year has gone up $2,000 from last year. So the grand prize last year was $3,000. This year it's $5,000 because, our entry pool expands. So we want to pass that on to the authors. And of course, the top winner in each category also receives $1,000. So that's 7 more prizes right there, with each first prize winner winning $1,000. And we also have 7 honorable mentions, 1 in each category, and these authors win $250. So the grand prize winner and the top winners, they also win a marketing analysis. There's a 1-hour phone consultation with a book publicist named Carolyn Howard Johnson, and she gives really, really great marketing advice. You can look her up online. She's been in the game a long time, and she's launched a lot of ships. And we also give 300 credit with Book Baby, which is a great self-publisher's resource. And we also give free ads in our newsletter. Our newsletter has over 75,000 subscribers. Of course, what's not listed on the page is that we also use all of our social media platforms to promote the winners, including our Twitter, which has over 135,000 followers. So winners to the contest will have their excerpts shared on the website, on the Twitter, and hopefully get a lot more exposure to diverse audiences. There are a couple of countries, unfortunately, that we're not allowed to accept entries from. We can't accept works from Syria, Iran, North Korea, and Crimea right now due to US government restrictions, but all other countries are open. We do ask that all entries be submitted in English, however, because we don't have the staff to screen foreign language entries. But yeah, our main goal is really accessibility. And also we really, really value experiences that not everybody has. And so we find that a lot of times that does come from international authors.
Chris is asking, must they be in ebook form for submission?
No, we also accept hard copies. So yes, anybody who makes it through to the final rounds, we do end up asking for a hard copy because the judges love to read hard copies. However, if it's difficult for the author to provide a hard copy, absolutely no problem. It doesn't make a difference with the entry.
There's just something about having that hardcover holding in your hand and turning a page to a book that just makes it so much nicer than reading an ebook. Katie's asking, do you know approximately how many children's picture books enter?
Not enough. We get a lot of high quality entries, but it's quite a small percentage of our entry pool right now. I would say less than 10% of the books that are entered are children's book categories. So to tell you the truth, authors who enter in our 3 most recently added categories, which is children's book, graphic novel, and memoir, and art book, which is new this year, actually are competing against a smaller number of entrants. So, I mean, statistically, it's a really good thing to do is enter in one of these graphical categories right now.
Now, is there some fancy badge or award that comes that can be put on a cover for those that are at the top of the list? Yes?
Yes, thanks for asking. Yes, not every author takes advantage of this, but last year we did have one of the prize winners, Caleb Rainey, who submitted and won first prize with his poetry collection, Look Black Boy. He had a special edition of his book reprinted with the North Street seal on the front cover. So that's something that we introduced last year, but it's something that we're definitely hoping that authors will take advantage of. I love the way a nice seal looks on a book cover.
Oh, yeah. So Taryn's asking, are there publishing date requirements for this year's submission?
All we ask is that at the time the contest ends, which is June 30th, it's mandatory that the book be available to the public in some form. The reason for this is that we like to be able to publicize the book and encourage people to buy it. And we cannot encourage people to buy it if the book is not already available. So yeah, I mean, we do have kind of a loose definition of self-published. It could range all the way from being available on Kindle in every single format you can imagine to being just hard copies printed and sold in one independent bookstore in Portland, Maine, or something like that. But we do ask that they are available and that people who are attracted to the book can order it in some form.
Having it on pre-order where it's able for people to purchase the book, but in a pre-order state, would that qualify as well?
Yes, it would. Oh, sorry. Taryn had another question. Oh, thank you for specifying, Taryn. Yes, 2019 books are eligible as well. We have no kind of like expiration date for self-publishing. And frequently we get books from authors who self-published a few decades ago. Last year we even had books from the 1970s. These are usually in hard copy form, but sometimes authors decide to reissue. But yeah, 2019 is well within. Yeah.
And when is the next submission deadline? Will you be talking about the process?
Yeah, the submission deadline. Well, the contest opened on February 15th of this year, and the submission deadline is June 30th of this year.
One of the big areas that we wanted to talk to you about is, what kind of advice do you have from a judge's perspective?
Yeah, one of the things that I really love about this contest is the judges are extremely, extremely open about the kinds of books that they are looking for. I am but a reader in the contest. I do not make the final decisions about the entries. And every single year, I make sure to ask for more and more input from the judges so that my decisions can be informed by their priorities and what they're looking for in a book. However, I'm not the only one they're telling these things to. They are literally writing down their thoughts and their desires for a book and putting it on the internet. So here on this page, there's some generalized advice about what they're looking for. In the first paragraph, I mean, really sums it up in a beautiful way. They're looking for books that have a unique ability to awaken empathy. Empathy is big for us, and illuminate complex truths of human nature. We're not looking for simple stereotypes. We're not looking for books that tell us what we already know. We're looking for books that have a really unique viewpoint into a life that maybe has gone unappreciated in previous generations, for example, that now really should be coming to light and shared with the world. Going down to the third paragraph, we're looking for this freshness. We're looking for this sense of urgency, like really books that convince us that they have to be written, the stories that really need to be told. And it's not so much some kind of like cleverness or like, oh, I played with this plot twist or something. Although, of course, that can be really great and rewarding as well. And we love it. But it's like kind of more this personal freshness, this vividness of experience that we're looking for. So for every year that the North Street Book Prize has won, we have a winners page. So the decisions that the judges have made are right there for everybody to see. We publish excerpts of the winning stories for the whole world to enjoy. And not only that, but we publish really detailed comments from the judges. Gerald Pope is the author who won last year. And his book is just such an amazing, unique book. It's about an elderly man and his dog who go outside for one last game of fetch. And it's this wonderful metaphor for moving on. You can interpret it as their death. You can interpret it as just passing into a different stage of life. But it's a lot about grief and processing, and it actually has no words whatsoever. So it's just a great example of a work that really plays with the genre in a creative way. And you can see here, Jendi Ryder, who's one of the top judges, along with Ellen LaFleche, has written a very detailed commentary on this. Ellen and Jendi don't just write about what they like about the books, they also write some constructive criticism. And they also comment on the physical copy of the book. Jendi and Ellen have some pretty particular things they're looking for when it comes to like the physical nature of the book, with both the children's illustrated books and with the other entries. They're looking for books that are pleasant to hold, easy to read, books that feel solid. You know, sometimes we get books and unfortunately after a few reads, the pages start to fall out and stuff like that. We're looking for books that really feel like, you know, durable, especially the children's books, because the children's books can have some rough handling sometimes with their young readers. We also look for books that are very visually accessible for older people and people with eyesight issues, because often children do not read books to themselves. So, you know, books with difficult fonts, books where the font is a bit too intricate or too small, books where the fonts have a color that kind of blends into the background or is kind of lost in the detail of the page. This is not good. We like books where it's easy to read, it's legible, and where it's enjoyable to read out loud as well. You know, in the past couple of years, Jendi and Ellen also started noticing that hard copies sometimes have a kind of a chemical smell. And that's also something that they don't enjoy. They should, you know, just smell like a regular book. And I mean, they really enjoyed Fetch because the production was very professional. It's the illustration, it's the narrative, but it's also the physical makeup of the book that they're looking at.
I wouldn't have looked at that cover and thought immediately it's a children's book.
Yeah, it's serious. It's a little more serious. But you know, we also think about kind of the wider literary context of books. We don't only choose children's books that are serious, but there is quite a precedent for serious children's books. So we're not afraid of children's books that take emotional risks. And, you know, we don't want books that would be too upsetting to children, but we definitely believe that books with more serious themes can actually help children to process grief and some of the confusing things that they may be coming across in their lives. Actually, one of the other winners was called Goodbye, My Dear Grandma. And it's this wonderful book written actually by a savant young lady in her teens who illustrated the entire book herself. And she wrote it after her grandmother passed away. And it's full of activities for children to, basically confront and work through their grief in a healthy way and allow that dialogue between the parents, the children to happen around the death of a loved one. So yeah, I mean, at North Street, we're definitely into life's complexity, and we don't think that we need to really shield children from this stuff. That being said, violence can be problematic in the books, and we don't necessarily like to have anything too gratuitous. We're definitely on the side of the conceptual, the spiritual, the deep, the emotional, the intellectual, and also just the enjoyable, the fun, the funky, the quirky, the whimsical, without too much, gratuitous visuals or like very upsetting content in that way, the violent way.
Great to have this level of feedback.
Yeah, I'd say that anybody who's in production, whether or not you end up entering this particular contest, it's incredibly valuable to read Jendi and Ellen's comments because they have read a lot of books and they're both published authors in their own right as well. So, I mean, they're insiders and they're making their insights known. It's really good.
I think you mentioned to me when we first got on the call together that anybody that submits before the entry receives a marketing, is it an ebook or something from one of the judges?
Yes, we have a partner named Carolyn Howard Johnson, and she has been a book marketer for many years. And we provide a free copy of her ebook about book marketing to every single entrant, no matter how far they get in the contest. Also, next year, we have some other new partners coming on to the contest, not for this year, but for next year. We're going to have a man who's actually a book cover designer for next year. And so winners will actually have the chance to have a personalized book cover created by this partner of ours.
And Andrea's asking, you mentioned you have other contests. Are they children's picture book ones as well?
The other contests that we have are, in the beginning of the year, we have the Wurgle Flump Humor Poetry Contest. That is for single poems that are humor poems, and that contest is free. So for that, we take individual poems, and we do get poems for children in that contest. The other contest we have is a fiction and essay contest. So we're looking for short pieces of fiction, short pieces of creative nonfiction. It's not specifically for children, but sometimes we do get short stories and essays that are geared for younger readers. But I think this is more of an adult-based one. And then the final contest is for standalone serious poems. I'm not the judge for those, so I can't really speak specifically to the criteria that the judges are looking for with those, but they're not for children's audiences, but it could be an interesting avenue. The entry fees for those contests are a lot lower because we're just looking for single pieces and not book length pieces. Oh, and also, we provide detailed feedback on all of those entries as well from all of the judges. Jendi and Ellen are only the judges for this particular contest, but Jendi and Adam hire all the judges for the contest, and we all have these shared values of diversity and broadness of experience. So reading the comments for those contests could be instructive as well, especially if anybody also has an interest in those other genres of writing.
As I think about the various different ways you can print your book, there are certainly print on demand options that are going to have paper that's thinner. We could do like a short run and get a better quality of paper for the specific entry. I would recommend that they do that, but I wanted to just throw that out there to you. What do you think about this quality of paper and binding, print on demand versus offset printing, that kind of thing, make a difference?
I think that really it shouldn't make a difference in the judging. Oftentimes it does. I mean, certain features of the book can be unattractive. Like I mentioned, this smell, kind of this chemical smell. And we also really ask for books where, especially for children's books, the entries are durable and could stand up to little hands, turning the pages many times, turning the pages aggressively, throwing the book on the floor and stuff like that. I don't think the judges do those things. They're adult people. But yeah, but otherwise, the thickness of the pages, like we do just keep in mind that oftentimes authors are on a budget. Obviously, if we get ebook entries, entries, these requirements are not an issue. So I think we also just look at the context of the entry and see, what is achievable here. And definitely we have had entries where we were so blown away by the writing and by the picture that even if there were a couple of imperfections with the physical execution of the book, it really didn't matter to us. Like in the graphic novel category last year, we had a wonderful entry called Do Not Resuscitate. There was a slight chemical smell. The font was a little hard to read at times, but the overall work was so fantastic that it just skyrocketed to first place. And they just kind of mentioned those physical imperfections almost as an afterthought in the comments in that case. So yeah, I mean, it depends on the balance of the entry.
Are there length requirements for poetry or essay entries that we can look up the actual requirements on the website?
Oh, for the other contests?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. For the Wergolflamp Humor Poetry Contest, we ask for poems that are fewer than 250 lines. That is a really long poem. For Wergolflamp, also, we ask that it's free. So we ask the poets only submit one poem per year. The later one, the Tom Howard, Margaret Reed Poetry Contest, we also ask that poems be up to 250 lines. The entry fee for that is $20, but you can submit 2 poems for each entry. And also the total number of entries is unlimited. So you could submit, 2 poems and then another 2 poems and then another 2 poems and however many you want, up to 250 lines each. The essay and fiction contest, we ask the entries do not exceed 6,000 words each, but there's no minimum limit. So we also accept like flash fiction and flash creative nonfiction to those as well.
And wordless books, right? Because that's what won number 1 last year.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And for the North Street Prize, for the book prize, I mean, obviously, if you're a children's book author, you're probably not going to be going up to 200,000 words, maybe so. But we look for books that are 200,000 words or less for the North Street Prize.
Amazon KDP quality, I assume, is sufficient.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, here's an interesting question. Can a children's book be entered in the art category? I would say it really depends. Like we've definitely had entries where it could go either way. In that case, the judges are free to kind of recategorize the book. So even if you submit your book in one category, if the judges read it and believe, oh, this belongs in another category, they'll just recategorize it. And also, it's worth a shot. The art book category is a new category, and that means it's going to have far fewer entrants than the others. So statistically, if you think your book can get into the art book category and it belongs there, I'd say submit it in there because, you're not going to have as many competitors.
Is there any kind of things that maybe a self-published author might skip that could cause any kind of dings in the judging? For example, if the copyright doesn't have LCCN and CIP block and things like that, do those types of statistics make any difference?
This is a fantastic question. Thank you very much for bringing this up. Every year, we issue a lot of refunds for particular little issues. I wouldn't get as persnickety as some kind of wording on the copyright page, but there are other things. For example, on that original North Street contest page that you shared, there's this list of categories of book that we do not currently accept. And on that category includes middle grade fiction. We do sometimes get these middle grade like children's chapter books, and we cannot accept them at this time, unfortunately. Other frequently submitted but ineligible genres include self-help. We cannot accept self-help at this time. And hard nonfiction, we also cannot accept for the reason that we don't have the resources to fact check, and we don't feel comfortable promoting a book where we haven't checked the facts if it's kind of in the hard nonfiction genre. Creative nonfiction, memoir is a completely different story. It's very interpretive, and we don't feel like we have to exhaustively check those. Other things that we issue refunds for would include books that are published by hybrid publishers sometimes. I'm the screener, so I have to check these things. And if I notice that it's possible that a book hasn't been completely self-published, then I check with the organization that's listed as the publisher. With hybrid publishers, it could go either way. Sometimes I write to the hybrid publisher and I say, hey, would you be comfortable if a book of yours was published in a self-published book contest? Sometimes I get answers that are like, no way. And sometimes I get answers that are like, absolutely. And another factor in that is that when we talk about self-published, we believe that means that the author bears the cost of the publication. For us, that's kind of what separates traditional and independent.
Right.
So unfortunately, if I write to the hybrid publisher and they say, no, we paid the author, we took care of everything, I'm like, okay. And then we just issue a refund. That's really the worst that can happen.
Yeah. So you consider that more traditionally published than
Yeah.
self-published when that happens.
Yeah. Because we want to reward authors who are doing it all themselves. Like, that's really the point of this contest. We want to lift up and celebrate authors who haven't been supported by the more traditional pathways.
Raising funds through Kickstarter doesn't exclude the author?
No, the author can fund their book any way they want to, as long as they're procuring the funds and they're publishing it themselves.
Okay.
Yeah. And often we get authors who work with organizations like BookBaby, for example. BookBaby is our partner. And these kinds of organizations provide a lot of services. They provide the cover design, they could provide the formatting, they could provide the printing. And we're totally fine with that, as long as it's the author who's really bearing the cost of this.
Annie, any words of wisdom, parting words for the folks that are considering submitting for this contest?
Well, not to be too mundane, but please check the rules page and follow them as completely as possible. You know, sometimes I get entries and it's clear that the author has put a lot of effort into the entry, but like one of the rules hasn't been followed. Like, for example, with this genre requirement thing, and I have to issue a refund, and it's like they've put all these hours into preparing the entry, and that's always a sad situation. But other than that, I just say, please read the judges' comments. And also, when you're writing and preparing your book, don't be shy to go all the way. You know, if you think something is just a little bit too emotional or too controversial or something like that, really look again. And I would say value your own experience, value your own voice, value your own message. Because when we get those kinds of entries where the author has gone inside of themselves and pulled up something that we have not seen before, something that just pierces through our experience and really reaches us. It's just a fantastic feeling. You know, this is really why I love this job so much, because I can basically meet you through your book. So please don't try to hide behind some kind of established genre or formula. Really look inside and find what's there.
Well, this has been really extremely helpful as we work through this together. If there are any follow-up questions or anybody wants to reach out and get in touch with you, how would you like them to contact?
Send me an email anytime, Annie@winningwriters.com. And you know, I am the screener, so I don't think it would be ethical for anybody to send me their work and be like, would this win or something? I could not answer that kind of question, but I can direct people to resources. I can direct people to other contests. I'm actually the administrator of our Reddit page, r/literary contest, that has like a big directory of contests, new contests posted every day. Winning Writers also has a big database of free literary contests to enter, even some free children's book contests. So I'd be happy to provide links to that. Yeah. And if anybody needs like self-publishing resources of any kind, Winning Writers, the website, isn't just a contest administration website. I mean, it was basically founded as like a resource site for writers. So we have links to so many different self-publishing organizations, a lot of helpful advice from real authors about the publishing process and every single aspect of it, from composition to physical execution. So yeah, if anybody's curious, just email me and we can talk about what your needs are.
That sounds wonderful. Thank you again for taking time out of your busy day and joining us and giving us a little leg up and an inside scoop on what the judges are looking for.
And let me just thank you again, because, you know, I read so many books. Like I said at the beginning, this is really the first time I've ever had a chance to address the authors. And it's wonderful to see your faces. And I'm having this amazing experience of like looking at every one of you and seeing a book.
Yes.
I'm looking at you and just so curious about what the story is that you're telling right now. So I just love the experience. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You too, everybody. Thank you. Have a great
Bye.
day.